Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another UFC breakdown and predictions video. This week it's for UFC on ABC5, UFC Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. This is actually a pretty good card, man. It's a card that I'm looking forward to watching and looking forward to breaking down. And like always, make sure to like the video. Make sure to put a comment down below. Let's get some interaction on this video. Share it if you have social media. If you have friends that like MMA, I always want to get some new people on the channel. So outside of that, man, if you want to get access to my bets, you want to get access to breakdowns for other promotions, you know where to go. Patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru. We got a lot of people over there right now, and we're going to be looking to make some money this weekend. So come over, join the party, and Patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru. But let's get into this first fight of the night here. Cody Brundage taking on Cedric Dumas. This is a short notice fight. Cedric Dumas is supposed to fight a different opponent. Brundage coming in here on less than 2 weeks notice for sure. Probably, I think, less than 10 days notice. But two untrustworthy guys. To me, it's really hard to put money on either fighter here. Cody Brundage is a guy, I mean, you see him jumping guillotine in a fight against Adolfo Vieira. And then Cedric Dumas, SD Dumas, I mean, you see his last fight in the UFC and just his overall level of competition, and just really makes you question him too. So ultimately, I think this is a tough fight to predict a clear winner on. But when you look at skill-wise, how these guys match up, I mean, Cedric Dumas is a big guy, and he has, like, a long frame and good intangibles. Like, he seems like he has a good instinct for fighting. He can land those kind of unique shots. Like, I've seen a fight where he landed a really nasty head kick. And he's dangerous, but his striking is just really awkward. He is not very technical and doesn't set things up the greatest. Brundage is a guy that pushes the pace, gets right in your face, and tries to be technical with the striking, but high volume and make it kind of a brawl and then make it a wrestling match. And he has the superior wrestling here, in my opinion, by a pretty large margin. Cedric Dumas's wrestling and grappling, to me, is very questionable, but Brundage is one of these guys where it's like he can get takedowns, he can get top control, but tends to make these mistakes at some point. Like I talked about at the beginning, where he jumped guillotine on Adolfo Vieira, or he loses position being too aggressive, and when he ends up on bottom, he can get finished. It seems like he doesn't really do well when adversity hits, but in this fight, he's going to have a big advantage on the ground. In the wrestling, I feel like, I don't know how his cardio is going to be because I don't know what he's been doing, but he does train in Colorado, which obviously that's going to be a significant advantage if he has been working a little bit, or at least doing his thing. And man, this is a tough one because I could see this fight being another one of these fights where Cody Brundage is looking good and then ends up getting stopped by Cedric Dumas. But just based off Cedric Dumas' last fight, I can't really pick him in good conscience here. So this fight, I don't really feel has a lot of value from a betting perspective. I think it's going to be maybe a fight you could lie bet if you see a clear edge right away. But outside of that, I don't really see a lot of value on either side here. But I'm going to go with Brundage, and I'll say he wins by submission in the second or third. And up next, we got a flyweight fight. Tatsuro Taira taking on Kleidson Rodriguez. And I'm glad the UFC is starting to sign some more flyweights. And flyweights getting pretty stacked, man. There's a lot of talent. And this is another pretty good fight right here. Tatsuro Taira is a huge favorite. I don't really agree with the line, but he is 13-0 and has a lot of hype behind him. Kleidson Rodriguez kind of lost a little bit of luster when he lost his UFC debut, but came back, got the win in less than a minute, and now he's looking to gain all that momentum back that he had before coming to the UFC and more by beating Japan's biggest prospect and one of the biggest prospects in the flyweight division in MMA, if not the biggest. And this is going to be interesting. I mean, on the feet, I think it'll be very competitive. Tyra is a very lengthy, long guy, and he does a good job of pressuring forward, not giving fighters a lot of chance to breathe, using his long shots. He's pretty accurate, and then he'll use that to get into the clinch. He has good clinch knees, good clinch attacks, and then he can hit takedowns. But I haven't really seen a fighter, at least in the UFC, I guess you could say in his fight with Vergara, that was the most striking we really got to see from him, where he did get clipped a little bit, and I do think that if a fighter could force him to stand on the feet for a prolonged period of time, he could start to get touched up, but his striking is definitely improving every time out. You see that. Rodriguez is, in my opinion, the cleaner striker, more technical striker, though, and he's the more athletic, explosive, powerful guy. He does a great job with his kicks, and he has good distance control. His hands are okay, mostly throws like 1-2 shot combinations, and he isn't really a great boxer, but he's a good pot shotter, and he's clean, accurate, and he's pretty powerful, and he's high volume. I mean, the guy keeps a pace, he's very active, and he doesn't get hit very much. He controls that distance really well. He does have a taxing style, though, because most of his offense comes with kicks, and then when he does go for takedowns, it's all very explosive doubles, and he's using a lot of energy. So you saw in his fight that I believe he should have got the victory, but ended up losing on the scorecards to CJ Vergara. He did get a little bit tired and started to get backed up more and more in that fight, and Tyra pushes a crazy pace, so that's something that I think he could struggle with a little bit in this fight. And Rodriguez, when he gets put on his back, he has good defense in terms of he can stop the bleeding, not really take a lot of damage, and not get submitted, but he can be held down, and I feel like if Tyra gets on top, he can land some elbows, he can maybe even open up Rodriguez, and he could definitely get that control time. I don't think Tyra's going to get a submission in this one, and I think it could be competitive because I definitely feel like on the feet, if Rodriguez can control that distance and keep the range, work his kicks, then he could maybe have a slight advantage. But ultimately, I think Tyra's just going to wear him down with that pressure, constant clinching, level change takedown attempts. Even if he doesn't get him eventually, once he starts tiring down Rodriguez, he could put him on his back. And when he does get on top, or if he does get on top, I think Tyra's going to be able to control there pretty easily. And Tyra's very composed. He has a better gas tank, and I just think that he's going to be able to put it out there a little bit more. And when they get in the grappling situations, if Tyra gets on top, I think he'll be able to dole out and control a little bit better, dole out more punishment. And I'm going to go with Tyra here, but it's a fight where on the money line, when you see Rodriguez like almost 3-1, I feel like it's hard to bet on Tyra in this one. I feel like the over is probably the best bet to target, but I'm going to pick Tyra to win this one by decision. And moving along through the card here, we got Jamal Emmers taking on Jack Jenkins in a great fight in this next one. Emmers, he really impressed in his last one. He beat a guy that was 23-0, and I feel like this is actually a tougher test, though, with Jack Jenkins, who's also an undefeated guy. I did pick Jamal Emmers to win in his last one, and I think he had a lot bigger advantage on the feet in that fight, and he had a cardio edge, and his opponent had not faced that many great fighters. And you could say the same thing about Jack Jenkins resume-wise, but I think Jack Jenkins' cardio-wise holds up a lot better. He has fought a lot more recently and frequently, whereas Emmers' last opponent was coming back off of a layoff. But when you're talking about how both these guys match up and how they're coming in this fight, Emmers, you got to give him some credit regardless from that last fight, and he looks very composed. And skills-wise, he's a tough guy. He's very athletic. He's a little bit older now, but he still has that speed. He has great wrestling, offense and defensively wrestling, and he could strike pretty well. He has good movement, nice kicks, and then he likes to land the pull twos, and he has a decent jab. But I feel like striking-wise, Jenkins, it's going to be interesting how they match up on the feet, because Jack Jenkins, I do feel like he could be a little bit plotty, and sometimes I don't really think he has the best head movement or defense. So Emmers is going to have that speed, and if he can move around and kind of pot shot, land that pull two, land his kicks, he could maybe just out volume Jenkins and beat him that way. But Jack Jenkins is one of these guys where he comes forward, stance switcher, brings that pressure really well, but he doesn't really overextend. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He does a good job of maintaining the range, but cutting off the cage. And really good jab, heavy leg kicks. He rips the body very effectively, and just real solid Muay Thai. He has good combinations where he'll end with leg kicks or body kicks, and keeps the volume very high, and he throws with bad intentions. He has a lot more, in my opinion, one-shot power than Emmers, and he sits down on his shots more, lands with more damaging intent, whereas Emmers is kind of moving and touching a lot more. And as far as the wrestling goes, both these guys I feel like are great wrestlers. I don't think that Emmers is going to be able to get takedowns on Jack Jenkins. He has really heavy hips, and he's just a very hard guy, in my opinion, to take down. And if you do take him down, I do feel like he's going to be able to get back up to his feet. And for Jack Jenkins, he also likes to mix in takedowns. He has good timing on the double, good body locks, and I think he could maybe get a couple takedowns. And from what we've seen against other opponents, he's been able to hold him down really well. But I don't see him holding down Emmers. I think even if he does take him down, Emmers will pop back up, and it'll become a striking fight again. But ultimately, I think that this fight's going to come down to who's the bigger dog, who has the better gas tank, because I think that on the feet, they both have avenues to victory. Emmers with the movement and the pot shotting using his speed. Jenkins cutting off the cage, using those leg kicks and breaking Emmers down. And I think they could kind of nullify each other in the wrestling and grappling department. So I feel like this fight is kind of a 50-50 fight, and I'm going to go with Jenkins in that instance. I know Emmers has the experience, and he's the guy that has fought the better opponents as well, but I think Jack Jenkins can get those leg kicks going. I think he can work the body a little bit, and I think Emmers might slow down a little bit more than Jenkins, and it could be a battle of attrition. And I'm going to say Jenkins wins this one 29-28 on the scorecard. In this next fight, this is another fight that should be all action, very fun fight. We got Trevor Peek, who made it into the UFC in his last one. He got the knockout win in the first round with 1 second left on the clock, and now he's quit his job. He's gone all in, full-time MMA, and you know that he's going to be coming in here with a great gas tank and evil intentions, winging bombs. That's what he always does. And he's taking on a short notice opponent here in Chepe Mariscal. And Chepe, I'm glad that he's finally getting his chance in the UFC. He is a guy that's coming up from 145 to 155. So he's going to be a little bit undersized here, but he struggles to make weight at 145. So I think it's probably not going to be that unappealing to him to not have to cut that weight. And both these guys, like Trevor Peek, Chepe Mariscal is the same, man. He likes to get in there, hands down, wing punches, throw down. And Mariscal is a little bit, I feel like, cleaner. He throws more kicks. He's a little bit more diverse, and he will mix in the takedowns, which I think he's going to have to do in this fight early and often. Go to the wrestling, try to hold Peek down, eventually submit him or just tire him out and out-wrestle him. But if these guys just go out there and brawl, I feel like Mariscal is going to get clipped. He's the smaller guy. We've seen him in there in fight against Joe Anderson Brito. He got caught clean and knocked out very early in the fight, and Trevor Peek has that same ability. But I do think, Mariscal has been knocked out 3 times, but the one against Steve Garcia, if you watched that fight, that was a bullshit stoppage. I don't really know what the ref was doing in that one. And then Gregor Gillespie stopped him, which I haven't seen that fight, but I'm pretty sure it was probably him getting finished on the ground. But when you're looking at Trevor Peek, it's hard for me to go against him here against a short notice opponent coming up in weight. I think Peek's going to be extremely hard to hold down. He's a dogged guy, relentless. He's going to continue to get back up to his feet. And Mariscal could clip him himself. Mariscal is a very tricky striker. Like, he has good kicks. He'll throw flying knees, switch stance attacks. But I think that Peak's just going to kind of go primal on him and get wild and clip him at one point, and Mariscal is not going to be able to take that power up a weight class. And Mariscal could maybe wrestle him to a decision, but I don't trust him being that kind of shape to do that on short notice against a guy like Peak that I know is going to be not easy to hold down and have 15 minutes of cardio most likely. So even though Peak hasn't been out of the first round, I don't see him slowing down, even if it goes longer. And I'm actually going to say he gets another first round knockout in this one. I think this fight is kind of going to be a brawl here. I think Mariscal is going to understand the assignment of what the UFC kind of wanted him to come in here and do. And I think he's going to throw down with Trevor Peak. I think he's going to be the one that's on the wrong side of it, though. And I'm going to go with Peak by first round knockout. And up next year, we got Zhalgas Sumaguloff again. I mean, fuck, man. If this fool doesn't fight this time, I'm not breaking down his next fight. I mean, nah, I'm just joking. But, like, I feel like I broke down this guy's fight every week for the last 2 months. But at least they got the new picture of him. It's worth it just for that. And he's taking on UFC newcomer Josh Van. He was supposed to fight last week. He was supposed to fight a couple weeks ago. Already kind of broke down Zhalgas quite a few times, so not going to do too much breaking him down here. We all kind of know what he does. Switch stance fighter, counter striker, up, down, attacks the body, attacks the head. He is very quick, closes distance fast, and just has a good ability to land counter strikes and good wrestling as well, which I think is going to be what his path to victory is if he does win in this fight. For Josh Van, we got a young prospect who's coming in here short notice, but going to be pumped up for his UFC debut. He won twice in really short order, like 2 times in 1 month in Fury, and like the end of November and the beginning of December. And then he hasn't fought yet in 2023, but he's been winning fights recently. He's only lost 1 fight, which came against a guy that's a very good wrestler. And when you look at Josh Van, that's kind of his Achilles heel. He gets taken down quite a bit, but he's pretty dynamic on the feet. He moves well, very fast. He's powerful, throws really nice crosses. He has nice kicks, switch stance, and he can kind of land those 1-2s, 1-1-2s. He has length and pulls guys into the strikes, and very fast and accurate guy. But he hasn't really fought too many great fighters. He tends to overextend quite a bit, and he does leave openings to be countered, and he leaves openings to get taken down. And he has gotten better with his scrambling ability, and we've seen him hurt guys, take their backs, and finish them, so he has good rear naked chokes when he gets there. But unless he kind of clips Zhalgas and knocks him out, I just think the wrestling is going to be too overpowering on the Zhalgas side. I think he's going to be able to take him down, control Van on the ground. I don't think Van has fought a guy that has this kind of wrestling acumen outside of his loss to Devin Jackson, where he ended up getting finished in that one. And I don't think Zhalgas is going to put that pace on him that Jackson did, but I think that he's going to be able to strike with him enough that he can open up the takedown, and then once he gets it to the ground, he's going to be able to control and have success there. And for Josh Van, he's going to have to be kind of knockout or bust, I feel like, or sub and club or bust. And Sumaguloff could come in here and be very flat, though. That's why, like, if I was looking at a bet, I would not bet either side on this one, because Sumaguloff coming in here, peaking over and over and over again, having to stay low weight, cut weight a couple times. You don't know what he's going to look like. He could kind of look bad. So hopefully this fight happens for Sumaguloff's sake, and I kind of feel like this one's going to go down. But I'm going to go Sumaguloff. I'll pick him to win by decision in this one, but total pass fight for me just with the circumstances. And this is another interesting fight, another fight that's close on the money line, and this one got made with Robertson calling her out, actually. So Jillian Robertson fought Piera Rodriguez in her last fight, got the victory, which was in her debut at 115, and Tabitha Ricci was in the corner of Piera Rodriguez, and just in general, Ricci's kind of on the bottom end of that top 15, or she was at one point. I don't know if she's still ranked now, but so Jillian wants to kind of start getting into those rankings at 115, where she was at 125, and see what happens here. And it's a very, both these girls are similar. Like, I feel like Ricci's a lot faster, and she closes that distance. It can land that left hook or the straight right hand, and she'll mix in kind of sloppy kicks. But I feel like Robertson has actually upped her striking more than Ricci. I think she's going to have the slight advantage there. People have to remember, I mean, now that she's at 115, she's going to be significantly bigger than a lot of these girls, and she's 5'5", 5'6". I think Ricci's like 5 foot, maybe 5'1", so she's going to have a big height advantage. And Robertson, she brings that pressure, and she's gotten a little bit better with her hands. She has a good high kick, and I think if she just pressures forward and is kind of throwing that 1-2 and 3-2, it'll be very competitive striking, and maybe they'll just give it to Robertson because of the forward pressure. And I feel like Robertson maybe sits down and throws with a little more power, but I mean, neither girl has much power at all, I don't think. And Robertson, one thing I do like about her is, for a long time during her fight career in the UFC as well, she was just training with Dean Thomas and maybe some throwaway training partners. But now that she's with the Goat Shed, it seems like she's gotten some confidence, even confidence like to talk. Like she went on Joe Rogan, and I don't know if you remember, like earlier in her career, she was like very like bad on the mic, like where she not even like cringy bad, like she just didn't want to speak. So it seems like she's opening up and she's becoming more confident in her abilities inside the cage and outside the cage as well, which is something that I feel like is important, even though maybe sometimes it doesn't like translate straight to like how someone would think they're going to perform. But confidence is a big thing. And with the grappling, like Robertson, if she gets taken down by Tabitha Ricci, it could be some issues where she can get held down. We saw that with Miranda Maverick and some other girls. But I do think at this way it's going to be harder to hold her down, because I think she's going to be able to not be as light. I think she was walking really light at 125. She has good half guard sweeps too, and I feel like if she gets on top of Ricci, she's going to be able to control Ricci, do more damage with the elbows, and eventually maybe get to the back and have control there. I don't see either girl submitting or finishing, but I feel like Ricci is not going to have as much success in the top position as Robertson does if she gets in top position. And it honestly could end up being a boring striking fight. Honestly, I could see it doing that. But, man, I don't know. I feel like this fight could go either way. But I'm going to lead towards Robertson here because I feel like she's confident right now. She's peaking a little bit. She is coming down in this new weight class, so I think she's going to have an advantage. And I feel like she can pressure. She could maybe hit a takedown or two and kind of differentiate herself a little bit on the feet. But I don't really have a strong opinion on this fight either way. But I'm going to go with Robertson here to get the job done by decision. And continuing on through the prelims, we got two relative newcomers to the UFC, but two guys that are experienced and fun to watch, already have great resumes under their belts. And Mateusz Rebecki and Loik Radzhabov were victorious in their UFC debuts by decision. They both fought competition that you could say is kind of questionable, with Loik fighting Esteban Ribovics, who I think is a better opponent than Nick Fiore, who Mateusz Rebecki fought, but both guys were also making their UFC debuts, were inexperienced, and Loik and Mateusz were able to get the job done against them. But this is going to be a fight that kind of tells who, in my opinion, the winner of this fight is probably going to get a top 15 fight next, or close to top 15. So this fight's kind of figure out who's the better prospect between these two guys. And when you see Mateusz Rebecki, the guy's like all gas, no brakes, comes forward. He has great pressure. He, in my opinion, has a little bit better boxing. He's a little bit crisper. He throws nice straight punches, nice hooks. He's clean, tight. And defensively, though, he could be a little bit, straight lines. Doesn't really move his head, so he can get clipped a little bit, especially with shots up the middle, knees, uppercuts. And Loik Radzhabov, he is a little bit more stocky, short, and he throws a lot of overhands, and he has big power. big hooks. He has decent uppercuts as well, which I think you should look for in this fight. And I would say that Radzhabov has the more one-shot power. And if they get into a firefight on the inside, I think Radzhabov has the faster hands. Rebecki is going to want to keep Radzhabov on the back foot with the pressure and control the distance with the straight shots, not kind of get in that pocket in exchange. He wants to be, at the end of his punches or in the top position with the wrestling. And I do think Rebecki could have success getting takedowns here, mixing it up. And he's going to do that. He's a black belt. He has elite grappling. And Loik Radzhabov has very good wrestling in his own right, but we've seen him in other fights get taken down, get tired. And I think Rebecki just mixing in the takedown attempts could help him gas Radzhabov. And Rebecki has a great gas tank, pushes a high pace. He does slow down a little bit himself, but I think he'll be the guy a little bit better for wear at the end of the fight. And Radzhabov, good wrestling, but doesn't have the greatest top control. He doesn't have great grappling. When he ends up on his back, he is hard to hold down. But I think Rebecki, with his top control, with his wrestling acumen and his jiu-jitsu acumen, could be a guy that could hold down Radzhabov. And ultimately, I just think Rebecki is going to keep on that pressure. I think he's going to be able to mix in a couple of takedowns. I think he's going to be able to have the better gas tank. And I see him getting the job done here. I don't think he's going to finish Radzhabov. Radzhabov's a really tough guy. So I'll say that Rebecki gets the job done by
In this next one, we got a contrast of styles fights between two veterans here. Randy Brown and Wellington Turman. Wellington Turman, he's a guy that came down to 170 recently at fights at 205, fights at 185, and now he's at 170. And had mixed results in the UFC, coming off a loss. Randy Brown's also coming off a loss. But Randy Brown's, in my opinion, being the more successful UFC fighter during his run. Both guys have had decent careers, though. And when you're looking at how they both fight, Randy Brown's a long, rangy striker. He has good jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't want to be in a grappling match with Turman. He doesn't want to end up on his back. And he wants to, keep Wellington Turman at the end of his strikes, eventually land that big cross, big kick, and get Turman out of there by knockout. Wellington Turman, he is a pressure striker that kind of wants to get on the inside, use his black belt, clinch you, take you down, hit that double, push you against the cage, take you down, get on top of you, make it ugly, get your back, and eventually choke you out or decision you. And his striking is a little bit janky, though. He's improved it a little bit, but he doesn't have the best chin. He's a hittable guy, and I feel like Randy Brown could put his lights out for sure. Randy Brown's a dynamic striker, switch stances, throws a lot of front knees up the middle, a lot of kicks, very fast, nice check hooks, nice 1-2s, great timing. He does a good job showboating and kind of using head movement and a lot of head games to make guys chase him and then land those big counter strikes. He'll even mix in elbows and things like that. And very dangerous, dynamic striker. I feel like Turman, coming down to 170, already being knocked out multiple times in the past. I question his chin for sure. And I think Brown could potentially just get out wrestled for 3 rounds, but he has the jiu-jitsu off his back to get up potentially if he does get taken down or throw up submissions or kind of just stay active enough to where the ref will stand him up. Or I feel like Turman's not going to be able to just hold down Brown for 3 rounds. I think Brown's a little bit too clean and too technical for that at this point. And I'm going to say Randy Brown catches Wellington Turman in the first or second round, knocks him out, and gets the job done, gets back on the winning track. I'm a little bit worried. Randy Brown did have a rough fight against Jack Della in his last one, but I'm going to say he bounces back and gets the job done.
And up next here, we got Neil Magny. He's trying to push back yet another guy, young guy, prospect, trying to make a name off him and break into the rankings. It seems like Magny's been able to get the job done over this type of fighter over and over in his career, but Magny's lost 2 in a row. He fought Shavkat, he fought Gilbert Burns, so this is definitely a big step down in competition and probably, a welcome opponent for Neil Magny after seeing 2 beasts like that. But
Phil Rowe's coming in here with 3 knockout wins in a row. So, I mean, careful what you wish for even with Phil Rowe. The guy's dangerous, great jiu-jitsu, extremely long, great boxing. And I don't know this for sure, but I would probably imagine this is the first time that Neil Magny's ever fought an opponent that has a longer reach than him. It's only half an inch, but that's pretty significant. I mean, Magny is used to having a big reach advantage over almost every opponent that he faces off against. And maybe, his ability to not get clipped could potentially change with that reach that Phil Rowe has. But I really thought about going with Phil Rowe in this one. I feel like he definitely at range has a chance to land that cross and knock Magny out, or use the jab to back him up and then land a big shot and finish him. But Magny's so hard to finish with strikes, man. I mean, usually the guys that beat him, I mean, you look at his record, it's all grapplers. It's guys that are able to take him down and out wrestle him and then finish him on the ground, where Phil Rowe does have that great jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't have the wrestling to take down Neil Magny. And I feel like if Magny gets on top of him, it's going to be different for Phil Rowe than it has been against other opponents, because I think Magny in the top position is not going to get swept so easily. I don't think that he's going to be as threatened as other Phil Rowe opponents by the submission game of Phil Rowe, and I think he'll be able to land some elbows and kind of rough Phil Rowe up. And I think the pressure of Magny is going to really mess with Rowe on the feet unless Rowe could just land that one shot that changes the fight or ends the fight, because I think the jab of Magny staying in Phil Rowe's face, backing Phil Rowe up and pushing him against the cage, clinching him, kneeing him, elbowing him, taking his back from standing, mat returning him, pushing that pace with the cardio. I think that's all going to be there for Neil Magny, and Phil Rowe is going to have to use a lot more movement than he usually does. He likes to be stationary and kind of back up and let fighters come to him so he could find that one-shot counter. And it's been working for him recently. I mean, he's been losing some of these fights and been able to find that kill shot and end it and get the victory. I mean, just look at his last one with Nico Price. He was rocked badly, almost finished, but then ended up turning the tables in the third round and finishing Nico Price. So Phil Rowe has that ability to kind of change the show with one shot, but I think that if he can't find that against Neil Magny, historically it's extremely hard to find that one-shot kill shot against him. It could be, a loss for him on the scorecards just by not doing enough, getting backed up, letting Magny kind of boss him around the cage. And I think it's going to be a Neil Magny type of fight. I think Neil Magny's going to be able to use the jab to clinch Rowe, push him against the fence, get him tired, and win a decision. So I feel like Magny is definitely on his last legs, but I don't think Phil Rowe's going to be the guy that kind of pushes him out the door here. So I'm going to go with Neil Magny to get the win by decision. And up next here, we got 2 more veteran fighters here with Brendan Allen and Bruno Silva. 2 guys that are action guys. They go for the finish. So another one that should be fireworks in this fight. I definitely edge it towards Brendan Allen, though. Brendan Allen's been looking really good recently. He just beat Andre Muniz. He submitted him. Bruno Silva, he's coming off a big win himself where he knocked out Brad Tavares, but he had 2 losses in a row before that fight. And if Bruno Silva can get this one, he's going to be in the best position of his career. For Brendan Allen, this is kind of a risky fight, taking on a guy down in the rankings when he maybe could have gotten a top 15 opponent. But when you look at it, I feel like Bruno Silva on the feet obviously is a very, very scary guy to deal with. Explosive knockout artist. Good job tacking the body to open up the head and kind of tricky counters. When he explodes in, he's extremely dangerous and he can find those kill shots. But I feel like Brendan Allen has improved his striking enough where he can use the jab, use his distance control, use his reach and range, and at least be competitive enough on the feet to open up the takedown opportunities, get the takedown. And I think you have a big advantage on the ground and in the grappling. I think you have an advantage in the wrestling and the cardio department as well. And we've seen Silva against guys like Andrew Sanchez be losing the whole fight because of the grappling and then get Andrew Sanchez at the end because he got tired. And with Brendan Allen, we know he's going to be in good shape. He's not going to get tired. And I just feel like Allen at some point is going to break him on the ground, either with ground and pound and then submit him, or just catch him and a scramble and submit him. And I'm going to go with Brendan Allen to win this one by submission in the second or third round. And in this next fight, this is another banger fight right here. David Onama taking on Gabriel Santos. And David Onama was kind of on the wrong end of an epic fight in his last one. He went in there with Nate Landwehr and almost got him out of there in the first round, but gassed himself out. And then Nate Landwehr kind of embarrassed him for the rest of the fight en route to Onama losing the decision. But Onama showed a lot of toughness in that one. And before that loss, he was on a run in the UFC where he'd gotten some cool finishes. Gabriel Santos, he came into the UFC on short notice against LaRon Murphy after winning the LFA title and being really successful on the regional scene. And in my opinion, he got robbed in that fight. I thought he clearly beat LaRon Murphy, but lost on the scorecards, and he's still looking for his first UFC win. He's probably hungry and motivated after that for a second appearance. Onama's coming in here off a long layoff, so I think it was smart for him to take a layoff. He took a lot of damage in his last fight, but it's been a long time for him, and he's young, so maybe he's going to come in here with some new tools. Santos, I think, is the better fighter on paper, but he's a guy that does like to muck it up and get into brawls. He's a little bit hittable, and Onama has that one-hitter quitter ability. He is a very explosive athletic guy, so if Santos lets him touch him in the wrong spot, then he could end up getting knocked out. But I feel like technique-wise on the feet, Gabriel Santos brings that great pressure. He has nasty kicks, and I feel like his striking is a lot better than David Onama's. I think that Onama is kind of just wings punches sometimes and doesn't really have the most technical striking. And Santos, high guard, keeps everything very tight. I think he's going to be able to pressure and land a lot on Onama, land very heavy, clean strikes. And I think that he's going to have a huge edge in the wrestling and the grappling. I feel like he can hit takedowns. He could eventually get the finish on the ground. I just think Santos is on another level here. Besides Onama being a live underdog with the fact that he could clip him and knock him out, I think that Santos's pressure style, high volume pressure, is going to give Onama a lot of pressure or a lot of difficulty on the feet, and I think he's going to have a big edge on the ground as well with the grappling and the wrestling, and I think he's going to push a pace, and I think he's going to end up finishing Onama in that second or third. So I'm going with Gabriel Santos to get the win inside the distance in this one. I'll say he gets it done by submission. And this next fight, I don't really got a lot to say about this fight, honestly. Austen Lane versus Justin Tafa. Low-level heavyweight fight, probably going to result in a knockout. Austen Lane, he is the more athletic guy. He's more mobile. He throws kicks. He's 6'6". I think Tafa's like 6 feet. And he's pretty high volume, but hittable guy. I think Tafa's probably going to be able to get on the inside and land the big shots if they stay standing. And Lane's chin is not proven to hold up against heavy hitters. And I think the leg kicks for Tafa could be there too. But Lane has a path to victory with the wrestling, or if he can land a big cross or a big kick early. Lane has okay wrestling. He can get slams, and he's decent on top, but he doesn't really have the best top control. The issue with Tafa is kind of like a 7-minute fighter. He's a guy that tends to really slow down if you grapple him. So if Lane could get that going, maybe he has a chance, but I just feel like Tafa's going to knock him out in the first round. I think Tafa's striking is too much. I think the low center of gravity is going to make it hard for Lane to level change and take him down. And I think that Lane's going to get in too much trouble on their feet and just get clipped and knocked out. So don't really have a lot to say about this one, but I'm going to go with Tafa by first round KO. And in the co-main event here, we got a women's fight between Amanda Ribas and Maycee Barber, 2 ranked girls in the flyweight division. Maycee Barber, she's won 3 fights in a row, but some of those to a lot of people have been unwarranted victories. And Amanda Ribas, she's 1-1 in her last 2 since coming up to 125, but been pretty impressive. She beat Viviane Araújo in pretty dominant fashion. She had a very close fight with Caitlin Chukagian, and Now she's, in my opinion, getting kind of a step down in competition, but still a big name here in the co-main event. And with Amanda Ribas, I think she's a lot more skilled than Maycee Barber. I think on the feet, Amanda Ribas has really improved her hands. She has good length and really fast jab. She does a good job of lining up that rear cross. She can throw decent combinations. She has okay kicks, and she has good footwork on the outside. With Maycee Barber, kind of awkward striking, real boxy, and she throws like awkward hooks and overhands. But one thing about Barber is she has power, and when she gets into the clinch, she can really beat girls up. And Ribas, the only issue that I have with her really in her game is she floats that chin, man. She leaves her chin. She doesn't tuck her chin at all, really. She leaves it very available, and she's been hurt in the past. She's been knocked out. So Maycee Barber does have power. If she lands clean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Barber get a knockout victory. But I think on the feet, Ribas has the speed. She throws the combinations better. She moves better, better footwork. She's faster. And I think Ribas has a big advantage in the wrestling and the grappling department. I think she could time takedowns, hold Barber down. I think Barber isn't really good off of her back. We saw that in the Andrea Lee fight. She got held down for long portions of the fight. And Ribas has the cardio and the pacing to not get tired and not let Barber have one of those late storms. So I'm pretty confident that Amanda Ribas can use her acumen, use her length on the feet, make Maycee Barber chase her, then take her down, hold her down, control on top. I don't necessarily see Ribas finishing her or doing anything major, but I think she can win on points pretty clearly. And Barber, I think there's an outside chance that she can get a KO TKO finish, but I don't see her winning minutes, and unless the judges give her another kind of questionable or unwarranted victory, then I think Amanda Ribas is going to walk home with the decision. So I'm going to go with Amanda Ribas in this one to get the win. And finally, we got the main event here. We got Josh Emmett taking on Ilia Topuria in another banger, man. This card is one of the best cards of the year. All action fights. I really like this card, man. Now that I'm breaking it down, I'm getting more and more excited for it. And this main event is no different. I mean, I think the line is a little off, to be honest with you. I would not disrespect Josh Emmett like that, especially in a freaking swinger fight, man. This is going to be a fight where both these guys just go and throw down. I mean, Ilia Topuria, it isn't like he's a kicker that's going to be keeping Josh Emmett at range like Yair and beating him up with all these wider range attacks. He's going to be coming forward like a bull too, and they're going to meet in the middle, and they're going to be swinging and, swinging and banging, man, like Derek Lewis says, until one of these motherfuckers goes down. So this is going to be a great fight. And Josh Emmett, 38 years old, coming off that loss in the interim title fight to Yair, where he really got dominated. He got beat up on the feet, eventually had to go to the ground because he was getting beat up so bad, and got cut up with the elbows, and then got finished with the submission, the triangle. And that had to be a devastating loss for him, man. He could have had the title shot, could have had a piece of UFC gold with the interim belt, and all that kind of got ripped away from him. And at this age, it's going to be extremely tough for him to get back to that spot. And the UFC's kind of shoving it to him right away, man. They're giving him Ilia Topuria, a guy that really hasn't fought anybody. I mean, Bryce Mitchell was his biggest fight to date by far, and Buddy's peaking. He's getting all these knockout victories. He's undefeated. And the UFC clearly wants this young, up-and-coming guy, Ilia Topuria, to get in here and knock out someone that was just recently in the interim title fight, and then be in line for a title shot next, or maybe one fight away. So it's clear what the UFC wants, what they're trying to do with this main event, and Emmett's going to have to spoil the party here. And, man, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think volume-wise, Emmett is not going to be able to keep up with the volume that Topuria brings. Topuria comes forward. He has great boxing combinations. He mixes it up to the body, to the head, and he throws, a lot of strikes. But Emmett, he only needs a few to kind of match that. He throws with evil intentions, big power, and both these guys have shown that one-punch knockout power. So whoever lands first is going to be, maybe going out. Ilia Topuria is definitely, in my opinion, the more durable guy at this point. I would say it's not like Emmett doesn't have a good chin, but Topuria, he can get hurt and bounce back really quickly. He's shown that he has that, extreme grit in him. And Emmett does as well, but Emmett has been knocked out by Jeremy Stevens pretty badly too. But Emmett is a big, strong guy, man. I mean, he comes in great shape. His wrestling defense is on point. The one thing is there's not really been too many guys that have tested his wrestling, so it's a little bit hard to say his takedown defense is amazing. And Ilia, I think, is definitely going to test that wrestling and just try to put the pace on Emmett, who's older, and see if he can get him tired. But we've never really seen Emmett get tired in fights, and Emmett is going to be looking for those big overhand rights. He's going to be looking to kind of exchange in the pocket, but the difference that I think is going to be here is just the volume edge. I think Topuria is going to open Emmett up with feints, with body shots, and he's going to eventually start finding those big punches to the head. I think Emmett's going to get kind of more and more desperate as the fight gets on, and I wouldn't be shocked to see Emmett shoot in on Topuria like he did on Yair, get triangled again, or get submitted from bottom. And I think that Ilia Topuria by submission is probably the most likely outcome. Emmett, very hard guy to finish with strikes, and if he gets hurt, I could see Topuria going to the ground and ending it. And like I said earlier, though, I would think this line it should be closer because Topuria plays a very dangerous game, and winging punches in the pocket with a guy like Josh Emmett, especially early in the fight, man, I mean, that's kind of a kamikaze game plan right there where it could backfire big time. But I've tried to fade Ilia a couple times. It hasn't worked out for me. And I'm going to go with Ilia this time. I'm going to say he gets the knockout win. Emmett, just too much wear and tear on the body. The age is getting to him. Losses. He's coming off, like I said, that loss just in his last fight. Got cut pretty bad in that one. So I just feel like Ilia has the momentum, and I'll say he gets a third round knockout or a third round submission in this one, and gets the job done. So Ilia Topuria for me is going to be the pick. But as far as the line goes, I would line it more like Topuria minus 175, minus 180. I don't think he should be lined nearly as high as he is. So the value is on Emmett, but I'm not really interested in Emmett either as far as the bet goes. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Topuria inside the distance in that fight. So there you have it, guys. That's a full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC on ABC 5. UFC Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. I'm really looking forward to this card. Hopefully you guys are too. And as far as my most confident pick and probably of the week, for my most confident pick of the week, I'll go with Randy Brown. For my party of the week, I'll go with Amanda Ribas and Gabriel Santos. So thanks for watching, guys. Like I said at the beginning of the video, hit that like button, put a comment down below, share this video. Want the most views possible on this one. Really appreciate everyone that watches the channel. You want access to the bets that I have for this fight card. I have a few bets already out. I have some bets for LFA, PFL as well. There's a Fury this weekend. So there's quite a few fight cards going down. So definitely go to the Patreon, help support the channel, and make yourself some money. And I'll be back like always. I'm probably going to do a PFO breakdown. I might even do an LFA breakdown this week on the channel. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'll be back later talking to you guys about a new fight card.